네, 오늘 함께해 주신 여러분들께 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 저희
Ladies
잠시
and
후에
gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We will begin GSMA DXAF summit shortly. Please come inside and take your seats. And also for the smooth progression of today's conference, please set your phones on silent mode or vibration mode. And please come inside through the quarantine gate for your safety. Please make sure you walk through the quarantine gate and please make sure that you use the hand sanitizers. And also for your safety, please keep your masks on. We are offering simultaneous interpretation in Korean and English. Korean is channel 1, English is channel 2. You'll find the receivers on your table, so please make use of them.
Interpretation will be provided during the event, so if you need it, please use the receiver on your table. Channel 1 is for Korean, channel 2 for English. Please note this. 네, 그러면 이제 시작을 해보도록
Ladies and gentlemen,
하겠습니다.
let's begin the summit. Please come inside and
네,
take your
디지털
seats.
신대륙 메타버스로 도약하는 대한민국 코리아
Korea
메타버스
leaping forward with
페스티벌
Metaverse Digital New Frontier. Welcome to Korea Metaverse Festival and K Metaverse Expo 2022. Welcome everyone to the second day. Welcome to GSMA DXAF Summit. It's early in the morning. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
네, 인사드리겠습니다. 저는 오늘 여러분들과
Hello
함께
everyone, my
GSMA
name is
DXAF
Kim
서밋
Yeonjin.
참여를
I
맡은
will be
아나운서
moderating today's
김연진입니다.
GSMA DXAF Summit.
네, 오늘 이 뜻깊은 논의의 장에 저를
This
함께하게
is a
돼서
very
감사하게
meaningful
생각합니다.
summit, and I'm very
오늘
happy
여러분들이
to
함께하고
be your
계시는
host.
GSMA
Today's GSMA
DXAF
DXAF Summit proposes the potential of metaverse so it can spread to the economy and society and cultural era. And to work as a bridge connecting industries, we have put together the summit to exchange insights among many experts. I'd like to brief you on today's schedule. First, the summit will be opened with the welcoming remarks of GSMA Head of NEA and DSF's John David Kim and GSMA's Head of Asia Pacific, Julian Gorman. And we will have presentations and end with panel discussion. And that will be the last session of the GSMA DXAF Summit. Ladies and gentlemen, please give each other a big round of applause as we start the summit.
Thank you very much. Welcome to DXAF Summit here at Metaverse Festival. This is a big step for GSMA's or DXAF initiative. GSMA represents the global mobile industry, uniting more than 700 mobile operators around the world with a digital ecosystem and adjacent partners. And the metaverse is obviously a key topic and issue that has come into the universe of mobile operators. And the DXAF forum is headed by Johnny Kim, my colleague here, is a unique initiative in Asia Pacific where we look to bring together the leaders and the pioneers from across the world and across Asia Pacific, which is where we see the genesis and the real focus point of metaverse development. Bring them together to share ideas, to discuss the challenges and the growth and the opportunities for metaverse as we move forward across consumer and business. Today we're joined by mobile operators from across the region who are members of the DXAF and also other partners and some great guest speakers from across Asia Pacific who are going to share with you the ideas and thoughts that are coming from different perspectives of the ecosystem and helping drive GSMA and the industry to advance the opportunities and expectations for metaverse in the region. I welcome you to this inaugural summit here at this festival. It's been a great pleasure, and I'd like to thank MSIT and NEPA, the Korean Metaverse Industry Association, and EcoMice for inviting us to be part of this summit, and we welcome your participation as well today. With that, I'd like to hand over to Johnny, who heads the DXAF community in Asia Pacific, and let you take it away, John.
Thanks, Julian. Good morning, everyone. Are you all awake? Okay, great. Yes, just as Julian explained, DXAF, in case you're wondering, it's an acronym for Digital Transformation Acceleration Forum. And this has been going on for the last 3 years. The name of this community was the APAC 5G Forum up until the end of last year. And so this community has been in operation since 2019 when Korea launched the world's first 5G commercial services on the 3rd of April 2019. And we've been inviting leading operators like KT, Docomo, Maxis, Telstra, these operators to participate along with government organizations that promote the take-up and diffusion of 5G services so that the 5G services and deployment proliferated quickly across the APAC region. Now, 5G has become, everyone's rolled out 5G, okay? So what's unique? It's about what you do with those 5G networks, what you do with those 4G networks, what you do with those post-5G services that you introduce to really accelerate digital transformation across sectors and across the economy. And so this community will go forward from this year really interacting, exchanging, engaging with operators, governments, ecosystem players, and other forums and associations to really promote engagement, sector-wide engagement, sector-wide engagement, so that the ecosystem, digital ecosystem itself can prosper. And so, having said that, what we'll go into is a number of presentations to talk about the opportunities, threats, expectations, realities of the metaverse today. I'll start off the session with my presentation, 10-minute presentation, just look at the key points about expectation, hype, and realities of the metaverse, followed by a presentation by NIPA about Korea's metaverse promotion activities, and then followed by presentations from KT, LGU+, and of course from a guest from Singapore, Tony, to also talk about his views about connectivity and the metaverse. And then we'll follow on to an open discussion, a panel discussion with the participants from overseas, and of course the key representatives from the Korean side. Okay, so having said that, we'll try to make it as interesting as possible. Please don't go to sleep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your warm welcome. 네, 고맙습니다. 오늘 여러분들께
Thank you very much for your warm welcome.
네, 먼저 이렇게 좋은 말씀 해주신
And thank you very much, GSMA's Head of Asia Pacific, Julian Gorman. Thank you for your warm welcome. Now we have John David Kim, Head of NEA and DXAF GSMA, and he briefed on today's summit, and he will also present on metaverse, the role and opportunity for telcos. It is a very interesting topic, and please tune in to his presentation. Please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Hello again. Okay. Okay. First of all, again, good morning to everyone, and welcome to the KMF&KME GSMA DXAF Metaverse Summit this morning. On the second day of KMF and KME event, we've gathered MNOs, ecosystem players and governments working on the metaverse to share their views, experiences, and future plans to drive the growth of the metaverse ecosystem. Now, as we have seen from this event, yesterday, and we'll see today and tomorrow, there's a lot of growing interest and focus on the metaverse and potential opportunities. However, as we have experienced in the past with the 3G rollout, it is important to manage expectations and be careful not to create additional hype. When 3G was first deployed around 2003, around the globe, started off initially launched by Hutchison. The gap between expectations and realities was so huge that it ended up being a major disappointment for the industry as a whole. A very good example, I mean, we use video calling always, right? We're using KakaoTalk, WhatsApp, okay, Line, etc. Back then, one of the value propositions that was touted and marketed was about video calling, but no one wanted to use it. And since that, 20 years ago, there's been a cultural shift. And there will need to be a cultural shift continuously to make sure that metaverse itself, along with the technological enablers, policy enablers and so forth, becomes mass market. And so I'll go into, it's going to be really important to make sure that there is a hype out there, but also to make sure that we look at it as objectively as possible, and to build on a firm foundation to really enable metaverse diffusion and take-up regionally. So, first of all, I look at the the buzz and the popularity of metaverse. My colleague Julian shared this in his keynote yesterday. I'm using the same slide, please understand. But it's really interesting to see. I reiterate that once when Facebook changed its name to Meta, along with, for example, other companies that have actually emphasized its strategy for metaverse, the popularity and interest about the metaverse really shot up at the end of 2021, and it went to, and the popularity stayed up there. But you also need to notice that it also waned down a bit. So it's going to be really important to make sure that we try to differentiate what is hype, what is seen as popular, and try to analyze it, try to accept it as best we can so that we can build on it on a step-by-step approach and promote it so that it is sustainable. So, let's look at metaverse for telcos. Now, based on the market forecast from industry analysts, the outlook for telcos is really bullish. To cite just a few, Bloomberg estimates the metaverse economy to be worth up to $800 million US dollars in 2 years. PwC forecasts $1.5 trillion US dollars by 2030. And just in addition to that, the global tech giants have already made announcements, made investments about new initiatives and investments in metaverse technology, and the industry is moving very, very fast. So, the opportunities, the environment, the ecosystem is opening up. And the opportunities are open for telcos to really jump on the metaverse bandwagon. However, the collaboration and participation with the digital ecosystem will be absolutely critical to success. It's not only about, my walled garden only nowadays. It's got about working with other ecosystem players, other OTT players, other sector leaders, and other governments, and so forth. Telcos have fundamentally provided connectivity, we all know. We've been connectivity providers. However, to succeed in the metaverse environment, telcos must build on this fundamental through partnerships and collaborations to offer a diverse range of digital services along the digital ecosystem value chain. These services may include AR, VR-based experiences, digital identity. Digital identity is absolutely critical. Gaming, AI and data analytics services, and so forth. To do this and make the most of these opportunities, telcos must act and be more than just participants and enablers, and transform themselves into creators. So I'm sharing just a 5 potential opportunities for telcos and working with the ecosystem, with just an example of these each. So for the 5 opportunities for telcos shown here, there are live examples of partnerships and collaboration by telcos with ecosystem players to be more than participants and enablers, and to optimize opportunities in the metaverse ecosystem. First is really monetizing existing 5G investments in networks and infrastructure. A good example here is Verizon and Meta working to establish a partnership and aimed at unlocking the full potential of the metaverse. The collaboration pretty much explores how Verizon's mobile edge compute infrastructure can deliver intensive XR cloud rendering and how low latency streaming, which are core capabilities needed for metaverse applications. Second opportunity, potential opportunity, is creating AR and VR-based experiences. AT&T and Quintar, a sports entertainment augmented reality company, announced that they have formed a collaboration to develop and deliver highly engaging in-game AR experiences to sports fans in arenas and venues by utilising the power of AT&T's 5G. The third is really tapping the gaming sector. And we have some representatives from the gaming sector in this audience. And a good example is Tsinghua, joining hands with international chip maker Qualcomm, Taiwanese mobile phone brand Asus, and cloud game developer GameStream to create 4K games powered by 5G millimeter wave in the 5G vertical application. The fourth potential opportunity is to create or invest in metaverse platforms, and we see many here. And creating, what started as a project pretty much between the Japanese MNO KDDI and the region in Tokyo called Shibuya. Okay, they created worked to create a digital twin. Another a good example in terms of investing, okay, into metaverse platforms, or is, for example, MTN joining the metaverse by buying 144 plots of land in Ubud land in the Africa metaverse. Good example. And last potential opportunity is about emerging use cases. Hyundai will combine Singtel's capabilities in 5G, artificial intelligence and IoT, and Hyundai's expertise in smart manufacturing and so forth, to lead the development of a metaverse for the manufacturing industry. And these are just simple examples. And, we have some presentations from KT, we have got presentations from LGU Plus and so on, and they will touch on their experiences and their plans and what they are currently providing to the ecosystem. So, we looked at the potential opportunities, but I think what's really important is that the excuse me. Okay, so we looked at the opportunity. It's going to be really important to recognize and identify that the road ahead, I mean, the opportunities are there, but we also need to really embrace the challenges. These challenges will be diverse and dependent on many factors related to demand and supply, and government's policies such as enabling technologies and interoperability, commercial business models, security and safety, government support and promotion of policies, infrastructure readiness, availability and reach, and education and adoption, to mention a few. The size of these challenges will differ from operator to operator, from organisation to organisation, and from country to country. It will depend on the level of digitisation and disaggregation of networks, platforms and services, internally and externally, for the pervasive take-up and diffusion of metaverse locally and across digital borders. Finally, we have had a lot of interesting service propositions related to the metaverse for different segments, and there will not be one size fits all. And I've actually put this slide up because it's going to be really important to think very, very carefully about practicality of services offered and not to get carried away by initial novelty of the experiences. And this, example, I think it's fantastic. I've tried these, goggles and so forth. It's fantastic. The novelty is great, but how practical is it going to be? Okay. Are we going to walk around the street, with these goggles on? However, it'd be good for us to actually be in our homes or in our offices to use these for our virtual meetings or to use it for appropriate metaverse services and so on. So it's going to be horses for courses. Also, what I'd really like to point out is that all this hype. I'm not being negative here. I would like the industry to be very, very careful and cautious on how it's approaching the metaverse, how it's strategizing for the metaverse. Okay? And these are a couple of articles that I got from the news media for you to think about. The potential gap between expectations and realities of the metaverse, and the importance of making sure to manage hype and not carried away by the buzz. One is metaverse's user problem. Okay, and you can probably look it up on the internet to see, what's a practicality. They're saying there aren't many users out there. Of course, it really depends on how you measure that, but it's something to really consider. Second is, the innovative leader, Meta, also going through some difficulties, okay, with utilizing its metaverse platform for its internal staff members, for them to fully utilize it. And these are the technical glitches, the cultural obstacles that will need to be gotten over. So I'll just leave it here from here for my presentation. But I would like you to think about these last three slides as we go on to the following presentations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your impressive presentation. 고맙습니다. 이렇게 해서
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was John David Kim, the head of NEA and DXAF GSMA. Can you give him a warm round of applause?
네, 고맙습니다. 이어서 다음 발표를 또 청해 보도록 하겠습니다.
Next, let's invite our next speaker. The next speaker is from Metaverse Strategy Team at NIPA. Team head Mr. Shin Min-seok, who will be discussing the Metaverse projects of NIPA. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Good morning, everyone. I am the head of Metaverse Strategy Team at National IT Industry Promotion Agency, NIPA. My name is Shin Min-seok, and I would like to thank you for joining us today. Today, I would like to talk about what we are pursuing regarding Metaverse. So I'd like to introduce to you the Metaverse projects of NIPA. So there are largely two things. I would like to first introduce our organization, and then I would like to talk about the projects that we are pursuing at NIPA. So our organization was established on August 24th, 2009, and it has currently one office, 7 divisions, and 1 affiliated organization. It is located in Jincheon County in Chungbuk. And as you can see, there is a red lighted box there, and there is the Metaverse Industry Division, which provides support for Metaverse industry. And so there are 4 teams under that, and I am a part of the strategy team. And I am responsible for the planning of the support for Metaverse industry, and we also promote different support for companies and businesses and help companies to enter overseas markets. And so I would like to tell you about the few functions of our organization. We have several domains: AI, AIoT, AI semiconductor, cloud, metaverse, digital health, software, and blockchain. So we support these domains. And these are the functions that we support, as you can see on the right-hand side. So there are different functions. We support commercialization, infrastructure, fostering talent, entering overseas, legislation support, and policy research for the domains that we support. So early this year, in January, we established and announced a plan for the metaverse industry. So as you can see here, we have a vision of responding to the changes that will be brought on by metaverse, and the vision is Digital New Frontier, Korea taking the next leap into metaverse. There are several different goals to create values, and there are a lot of effort that we are putting into establishing and implementing this strategy. So strategy, we have 4 of them. First is to establish a global class, world-class metaverse platform and creating and promoting the key in metaverse era. Also promoting expertise companies that will lead the metaverse industry and also opening up a metaverse world for the people. So I would like to introduce the projects that we have at NIPA. So we have an XR Flagship Project, and we have a platform development project as well. So I would like to talk about the XR Flagship Project. So we are providing support to enable the development of metaverse services to promote productivity, innovation, and improvement of services. And we are focusing on the manufacturing, construction, shipbuilding, and industries, and also the police, medical, firefighting, and defense industries. And I will explain a bit more by watching a video. And then I would like to talk about the metaverse development project that we are focusing on, which I will show you in a video as well later on. So I would like to explain this one before we move on. This is the medical sector. So we are collaborating with the Korea Armed Forces Nursing Academy. So in case of battle or war, there could be a lot of trauma patients, and so we have developed a content for VR treatment. So I will also show you a video on that as well. We began this project in 2020, and it is almost at the end of the project. So this is a video explaining the project. Can you adjust the volume, please? So this is a VR training, and as you can see here, they have mannequins and they use VR glasses. It brings out the augmented reality, and they treat the patients in this training program. This is training for patient transfer. So they can access this equipment through virtual reality, and they can see the ambulance or helicopter spaces in the virtual space so that they can conduct training for patient transfer. So this is a very long video, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. Another project that we have done is a collaborative project with the Air Force. It is focused on military airport control training. And so this is a training content for aerial firefighting, air traffic control, bomb disposal, and runway damage repair. And we have finished developing the content for up to bomb disposal, and we have runway damage repair and flight illusions left. So we began this project in 2021. It is a 3-year project, and let me just briefly introduce this project. This is a very long video as well, so I'll have to skip a few parts of the video, but it's very difficult to skip through the video here for technical issues, but let me just show you the video. So the trainee is wearing a glass, and they find the potential bomb threat, and they remove the bomb threat in this scenario. So they have the equipment, and they control the robot that will do the bomb disposal. And so this training is about removing the bomb threats using the robot. So this trainee is moving the robot around and getting rid of the bomb. Okay, the next project I'm going to move on to is on construction. So it is modeling the 3D topography, and it simulates all of the underground topography as well. It does a simulation of sunshine. It also does a quality verification and certification of building structures. So it's a content development on those factors, and it began in 2021. And we are planning to apply this content by 2024. So this project will end by next year. So these are all reflected in the project when designing specific roads. Sometimes we have to use this content to help residents understand what the project is about. And so that is also included in the project. It uses spatial information to model the topography. A 15-minute presentation is a bit tight for me, but so I don't have much time. So I'll just move on to the next slides. So all of these projects are displayed outside, exhibited outside in our booth, so please visit our booth to know more about the projects. Next, we also have a project to support metaverse platform development for industry convergence types of platforms. So what is slightly different here is that up until now, the project before were about training content, while from here, these projects are about communication between people in a virtual space. So developing the platforms for people to communicate in the virtual space, and this is what the project is about. So we have 4 different areas: manufacturing, medical, convention, and public area. And these are all of the projects that will begin last year or this year, which will continue until 2024. So for the medical sector, we have a remote treatment project, and we also have a remote skill training program. So the projects support the development of platforms for these treatment and training. And so different types of medical organizations can see the same screen to work on collaborative medical care. And they can use different equipment to provide treatment, and we can simulate all of the different organs and veins in the patients. So you can see where the patients feel pain, and they can move it around to see the different parts, as you can see here in the video. So they wear the glasses, and they can touch the organs, the virtual organs. And this was a training for medical joint treatment between different medical institutions. I don't have much time, so I don't have time to talk about this manufacturing field, but it's about converging the actual world, the real world, and the virtual worlds. And we also provide support for metaverse platform development for the everyday life and economy. And then we also focus on fostering talent. So we have Metaverse Academy, Metaverse Lab to foster experts and provide job training, and we provide education that is more immersive for them to learn. We also have projects to promote metaverse companies, and so we have a program that provides support companies for each step that they take, and we have early stage companies and middle stage companies and leading companies that we provide with this program. We also have a project on Metaverse Hub. So we have a virtual studio and 5G MEC facility where users can test out their technologies. And there are 13 regions that are designated as Metaverse hubs. They have different centers and collaborative centers, and they provide support for those centers. And there are different regions, for example, Daegu, Gumi, and Pangyo, so we are going to establish different centers across different regions. Next is KOVAC, and KOVAC is in Sangam-dong. And this is a facility to provide support for metaverse production. And I had to skip through a lot of the slide, but I would like to mention that we are focusing on also providing legislative support, and we are committed to providing support to lead and promote the metaverse industry in Korea. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Team head Kim Min-seok from NIPA. He talked about the different projects on promoting the metaverse industry in Korea. And so thank you for that very fruitful presentation. Now let's move on to our next speaker.
Next presentation will be presented by the Executive Director Park Se-ju from KT, and the presentation is on status of KT's metaverse business. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Hello everyone, I am Park Se-ju. I'm in charge of global business development at KT, and I'm very honored to present at this important summit. There are various metaverse solutions exhibited in our booth, and I would like to talk you through some of them. So today I'll be talking about what is metaverse, the definition of metaverse, and I'll talk you through the realistic media that we are offering and the metaverse platform and collaboration. So I'm sure you would know much better than me in terms of definition. So I want to very briefly touch upon this. From MNO's point of view or telco point of view, the metaverse definition could be a little different. So I'd like to talk about that briefly. So when you think about metaverse, you imagine activities that happen in virtual space. Before us, metaverse to digitalize the information in the physical world and bring that to virtual world, or vice versa, bringing the information and data from the metaverse brought to the physical space. That is the metaverse, and we are bridging those transmissions, and I think that's how we define metaverse, and I think that's the way to go for the metaverse. So we are working on developing virtual space related services, but I think we also need to cover how to digitalize the information in the physical space. And there are many industries like medical, military, education, and those data can be digitalized and bring into metaverse. There's moves that are happening in there. And in the end, when the data is digitalized in the physical world, they will enter into metaverse. And the information, the services will be well implemented in metaverse. which is a virtual world. And maybe financial transmission or payments could also happen in metaverse, and we are looking forward to that direction. So for the metaverse to well planned out, I think the computing power development is important. And I think thanks to the development of technology, we are where we are today. In terms of infrastructure, we are talking about 5G, 6G, and since we have good infrastructure, we can discuss about metaverse now. And the government is offering active support, and the metaverse industry in Korea will also expand into global stage. And as I mentioned earlier, there are various definitions about metaverse. So the narrow definition would be as a virtual space where avatar communicate with each other within the platform. But if you look at it in a wider perspective, it will include all the technologies, including AI, VR, MR, digital human, and digital twin technologies. KT is working on various realistic service. So as you see outside, check out our booth outside, you'll be able to see some of them. We have MR Sports, holographic telepresence, real Q, matrix view. Those are exhibited in our booth. 1 or 2 years ago, these services were still released to the market. If you have experienced these at the booth, if you go and check it out, it has developed much further compared to when it was initially launched. For MR Sports, it's an educational program. It covers soccer, basketball, and it offers augmented reality experience. Real dance is a bit interesting. So if you dance physically, and with the AI technology, it will be modeled. And this modeled video will not just show on virtual space as it is, but it will render 360 degrees. In other words, the physical world's data is digitalized, and it's recreated in the virtual world. So what does it mean? You do activities in actual physical world, and you will enter into metaverse in the future, and it will be recreated. So it's not just 3D or 3D image of who you are in physical world. If the technology further develops, you can think of it as the reality in metaverse will be like Matrix movie. So that will be the eventual representation of final metaverse. And I think real dance is a beginning. So this mechanism will further develop, and it will make your life in metaverse more rich and more real. A holographic telepresence is also another example, and I'm sure you already know about this, so I will skip to the next slide. So I'm going to show you a short video, and we worked with the Naval Academy, and we offered this solution to them. So they use holographic telepresence in their lectures, and also the vessel propulsion system lecture using AR, and also there is a 360 matrix view practice, and also it offers real-life sports class offered for cadets in the Naval Academy. And I would like to show you a short video so you will get a better feel for it. This is smart physical training system. It uses this platform. You can practice and exercise like reality despite the weather outside. There are 8 rowing machines, and you can monitor your status real time, and you can engage in individual training and group training, and all the data is data-based, so individual cadets can improve their physical stamina on their own. We also have hologram telepresence lecture, and it feels like you are in a lecture in physical space, and its development is focused on the education on students. And also we also set up hologram studio in the Donghae Center, and when the cadets cannot come together in one space for a lecture, this will allow them to engage in a lecture together. And also ship propulsion system lecture in AI allows students to look inside the vessel. In the past, they were only able to look outside. So it's a more rich, immersive experience. And also the design has been reverse design. So in other words, it is very realistic, and they can experiment the operation of the gas items and reductions and engines. And also you can check your movement because it has a camera set up 360 degrees. And also the instructors can watch their movement from the perspective of they want to watch. So it was a very brief video, and as you can see, we've been using this platform for about 1 year. So those are the initial services, and they will further develop in the future. And as I mentioned, there are real physical activities happening in the real world, and they are digitalized and they are brought into metaverse. And I think that's where we will continue to deliberate on. We do B2B and B2C, and the B2B service would have greater implications for the industry. That's why we are focusing on B2B. But we are also looking at B2C. There are various demands. Here we have service providers, service suppliers, and outside a lot of users are walking around experimenting the services. So I think we should promote communication between the users and suppliers. So as our previous speakers mentioned, collaboration between these different stakeholders are very important, because we get the feedback, then we can improve the service, and we will be able to improve the metaverse industry in Korea, and that will be able to hone our competitive edge and help us go into the global stage. This is also another case using media facade, and you will be able to actually see it in Gwanghwamun area. And this is using XR plus 5G. And I talked about realistic media, and now I'd like to talk about some of the services that we have for B2C. There are some of them in our booth, and we named it Meta Lounge. There are various halls in this platform. They have business hall, conference hall, academy hall, and with your own avatar, you can participate in these activities. We currently have classrooms, offices, lobbies, and meeting rooms. So it's a very basic 3D rendered images. It's in its initial stage. Computing power, deep learning, technologies, if they further advance, the service will also improve with the technological advances. We have some key services. It can be meeting, it can be lecture, it can be conference. So this is what we have currently offering as services. And there are some limitations about computing power. So depending whether you have 30 participants and 50 participants, 1,000 participants, the services that are offered would be different. So you can check it out. And for Meta Lounge, we have an individual space that people can decorate their avatar in this individual space. There are some limitations in terms of customizing their own avatar, but as time goes by, it will develop to in the direction where they can customize their avatars to the way they want. And also, you can engage in meetings in this space. Some of the services are launched, some of them are still in the development stage. I'd like to touch upon some other aspects. So after COVID-19, we are engaging in video meetings often. And when we engage in a video conference, it's hard to know whether the other participants are focusing on the meeting or not. We have an eye tracking function installed in a video conferencing tools. So when you share information, you can also know whether somebody is concentrating or not. So in the real world, if somebody is participating, that data is collected. So when you do a video conferencing on a platform, also the information that have been discussed will be transcribed. There will be more features that will be added to KT Meta Lounge. So there are various features that will be added in the future to make this video conferencing experience as if you're actually doing it in the physical world. So there are VR, XR, AR, and the metaverse domains. They are kind of separated and isolated, but they are coming together. They will merge with each other, and it will merge into virtual office. And also, this will further expand and include revenue models like transaction, payment, and content and advertisement. As Naipa also mentioned, Metaverse has a lot of services that will be offered in the various business domains. This is B2C. We have Genie First, and we have various features like another home, another life, another economy. Thank you so much for listening. And I would like to say the most important thing is that, as Mr. Kim Tae-kyung mentioned, collaboration is key. KT is open for collaboration. We are open to all the technologies and features, and we are very happy to collaborate with you to come up with new features for the world. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Executive Director Park Se-ju, and he presented on KT's Metaverse strategy. The most important is to facilitate collaboration between the users and suppliers. And also he exhibited various services offered by KT. So I'd like to welcome the next presentation.
From LGU Plus Web3 Business Development Lab, Team Head Mr. Choi Jun-won will be presenting on the theme of jumping into the world of Metaverse. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Good morning. As introduced, I am Choi Jun-won from LGU Plus. I would like to talk about jump into Web3, and I would like to talk about Metaverse, blockchain, and NFT. So I am responsible for identifying technologies in the new areas, and especially focusing on Metaverse, blockchain, and NFT. So there are various booths outside, and there's a lot of amazing services and technologies developed by startups. And so we scout and recruit these technologies to look into ways how Metaverse, blockchain, and NFT can change the world. So I would like to talk about Web3. And when we need to talk about Web3, we need to think about who is going to use Web3. So it will be the millennials and also Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So they are the only and the first generation to have accessed and used digital when they were born. And so there has been a lot of change. We watch news and media and shop online and through mobile devices. And so millennials, Gen Z, and Alpha generation have that capacity to use 3D. And as you can see here, there is the 3D native digital experience. And this technology is advancing further on. And so we can experience like the reality in a virtual world, and we can feel the sense of presence. So we are entering an era of presence, so to speak. There's also token economy, which is based on blockchain, and there are users and sponsors who have their own role, and they are rewarded for their role. And then there is NFT membership, where we can protect the content that we create, and through NFT membership we can enjoy the benefits from it. And then there's, of course, social interaction and remote collaboration. And so, unlike the previous 2D, we will be able to enable social interaction and remote collaboration in 3D. And so Web3 is a huge opportunity that will change the world. But it doesn't only have this potential. It also has a perspective in the industrial perspective, and we see that there is potential, but it doesn't always link to business success. So when we look at the industrial dynamics, there are a lot of use cases. It's very wide. So it covers a wide range. There is no specific one killer use case when it comes to metaverse. And so we cannot see that the range of use cases is too wide. It's also very difficult to see success models. There are various experiments and attempts, and there are some game services that are available right now, but it is very difficult to define one successful model. And the third disadvantage here is that there are limited users. We all of us use smartphones, and we use smartphones for various things. But when it comes to metaverse and blockchain and NFT, there's only a limited number of users who use them. For example, tech-savvy users and Gen Z. And so a lot of the partners are entering the industry, but it's difficult to find the killer content. Also, we need to think about the regulation. The regulation is uncertain. I think the issue is that the regulation is not strong. It's just that it's uncertain. And so that uncertainty can be an obstacle in expanding our business opportunities. And so at LGU+, we are looking into finding the business opportunities in this uncertain and fast-moving Web3 era. So, like the launch of the 5G in the market, we believe that we need to be straightforward and take on the issue head-on. So we have three different steps that we are going to approach this issue with. The first step is to make killer services for a targeted customer, and we need to build success stories based on that killer services in order to verify the services. And this cannot be something that we can achieve based on the way we work previously in the past. We need to continue to communicate with our customers to improve our services. Step 2 is, after making these killer services, we need to use a reward benefit system, such as the blockchain system, to increase customer engagement to see whether or not we acquire meaningful traffic. And the third step is to provide Web3 features to other platforms to scale up the businesses to build ecosystem. And we believe that we will be able to collaborate between different ecosystems. So I would like to talk about how we're going to focus on killer services and what we are doing at LGU+. So as you can see here, we have business collaboration, learning, and community. These are the three main pillars that we are focusing on testing out our content. So we are using our platforms and advantages that we already have to develop platforms. And we also provide kids land and we are testing Metaverse for the kids' education program. And the last service will be about community and what type of service that we provide for the community. So we are testing our programs on these three pillars. So let me explain to you about the virtual office. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we eventually had to ensure social distancing, and so we worked from home and we became much more familiar with remote work. And this changed the way that we work, and we had to introduce digital technologies in the way we work. And this led to questions about whether this is a good way of working. And we thought that maybe Metaverse could be a good alternative and good technology to solve these issues. And so we are trying to prove these assumptions here. For example, is 3D more effective than 2D in remote work environment? And is it more convenient than a typical communication tool for people communicating between avatar and presence in the virtual space? So I would like to show you a video which will be about 2 minutes.
Choose your avatar's outfit for today. Enter the virtual office. In the virtual office, you can talk with your
저희들은
nearby
이제 가상
colleagues
공간 내에서
and greet them
동료들하고도
with
쉽게
gestures.
인사를
We can meet colleagues in the virtual space, the virtual office.
Office has a table, a meeting table, a small talk area, and
그리고
a
저희들이
meeting room.
실제로 사무소 다양한 저희들이 회의라든가
And the avatars can use different types of spaces to hold meetings.
Right away, in like real life.
정말 회사에서는 많은 스몰톡들이 이루어지고 있는데
And there's a lot of small talk between colleagues, so we're testing out this feature in the content as well.
메타버스라는 가상의 공간에서 과연
So we are also looking into testing how we're going to find colleagues in this space of Metaverse.
Hesitate because it takes you there.
가상 공간 또한도 여러 사람의 대화뿐만 아니라 소수가 프라이빗 컨버세이션도 가능한 것을 고려하고 있습니다.
You can also have private conversations in the virtual space.
Virtual office has no spatial limit and the meeting can easily be arranged. Let's enter the meeting. Participants
그리고
can
전통적인
share
지금
tools
비디오
as a
컨퍼런싱도
guide,
저희들이 다양한
sticky
협업들을
notes,
통해서
while sharing files.
좀 더 업그레이드하려고 시도하고 있습니다.
And we're trying to upgrade the video conferencing feature.
Communication is important when it comes to colleagues working together. The virtual office has a wide range of spaces and communications, enabling faster communication to suit your work situation, further enhancing your work productivity.
다음은 이제 저희가 키즈 AI 주라고 아이들 대상
Next is Kids AI Zoo. So we have a metaverse for kids. And when metaverse is combined with AI, we are looking into ways to improving the creativity of kids and how they can learn by playing. And so we are looking into the assumptions of whether parents want game-like education contents and if we can reward kids to visit more and stay longer, and also if AI NPC can be helpful for kids and be an attractive element for the service. And so let's take a look at a video as well.
그래서 아이들을 위해서 좀 더 재미있고 예쁜 UI를 저희들이
We have a fun and interesting looking UI for kids.
이제 아이들이 동물원에 갔을 때를 가정을 해서 동물원에서의 다양한 액티비티
So there are various activities they can experience at a zoo.
네, 저런 NPC에 저희들이 AI 기능을 넣어서
We put an AI feature in NPC so that they can have a simple conversation.
How big is an elephant?
That's interesting question. Elephants are the biggest animal on land. that is about 2.5 to 4 meters in size.
Hi, I'm Muno. I know a lot about zebra.
네.
Are
자,
you
요거는
going
이제
to
시간이 좀
answer my
있어서 요
quiz?
정도로 스킵을 좀 하도록 하겠습니다.
Let me skip this part. Now we have Muno NFT. I'm sure you've seen Muno character in our YouTube channel. It's used as a marketing purpose, and it is a character that we use to communicate with the younger generation. So we thought, can we sell NFT even if it is our own IP and not an art? And what is the difference between NFT community and a typical one? And how can we communicate with the millennials and Gen Z through NFT? So as you can see here, we use the Muno character. We have different designs for the Muno character for each day of the week. And we have a Muno Discord channel to communicate with our customers. And so we are testing these activities. So as I mentioned before, as we launched the LTE and 5G in the past, we have focused on making our customers happy and finding business opportunity. And so, like the same when it comes to Web3, there are not a lot of definition, and it is very difficult to predict the future direction of metaverse, but we are communicating with our customers to see what they really want and need, and reviewing their feedback and opinion. We are going to reflect it in our development of content and services and think about ways to leading the ecosystem. So, as I mentioned before, this is what we're doing at LGU Plus. We are focusing on Web3, blockchain, NFT, and metaverse. It is a very new and highly new area with high potential, but it is a growing area, and so we need to enter the world of Web3 and understand what is happening in this world and how this can provide value to our customers. This is something that we need to contemplate on and work with our partners on to build a new ecosystem. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much, Team Head Choi Jun-won from LGU Plus, for your presentation. You talked about the customer perspective and LGU Plus problem-solving pathway in an era of uncertainty. Now let's move on to our final speaker from Singapore's University of Technology and Design Future Communications R&D program. We have with us today Director Tony Quek, who will be talking about the Future Communications program in Singapore Pathway to Metaverse. Let's invite Director Tony Quek onto the stage.
Testing. Okay. Thank you for the kind invitation, Julius and Johnny. So I'm Tony. Hopefully, I can in the future can attend this without flying physically. Right? We should go through metaverse. I think that's more convincing. So today, I'm going to share from perspective of Singapore. So this is a program that we just started in Korea. It's a 6G type of program. We call it Future Comms program. We started last year, May. This is our phase 1 until 2025. So our whole vision is to look at 5G, 5G evolution, 6G, and essentially to build up Singapore's capability. Metaverse is one sector that we're actually look at and to strengthen the international partnership. So after I'll elaborate the test bed that we have. So our test bed is based on Open RAN, and one of the areas we look at is Metaverse. So overall, to share, there's a few research areas that we're particularly looking at, interested from Singapore perspective. One is non-terrestrial, although we talk about metaverse today, but you can think of how even non-terrestrial can be actually as one space that can connect it to the metaverse space. So for non-terrestrial, it includes satellite and the ground. Particularly in Singapore, aviation is a big sector. Maritime is a big sector, and this is actually important. So this is the area that we look at. And in mobile comms, we see MEC is network orchestration, security, and satellite. So when we run this program, actually it's important for us to actually have a strong partnership. So Korea is actually one strong partners. We have a collaboration with 6 Forum, and they're actually discussing on a new joint international project. And through this process, we actually want to establish partners. So the purpose of coming to this expo is really understand the ecosystem of this metaverse. I know Seoul is actually driving this area, and we really want to understand this and how to bring them into the ecosystem. So we have partners in establishing different areas. I'll elaborate a bit, like MediaTek and so on. We hope to be take part in important committee like Open RAN, NGMN, 3GPP, and so on. So to do this, an important part, we see a lot of projects that we've seen with the previous speakers. So of this translation, although this is not really metaverse, but actually smart manufacturing is one possibility use case. We have land, future mobility, air, that can incorporate the AR, VR, and of course AR, VR. In general terms, you can think of a metaverse. So, in our view, it's essentially this. So this is a white paper that was actually published few years back by NICT in Japan. So when you look at this 6G vision, one of the key vision is this, as we see just on one of the top, is this physical space and the virtual space. What is actually more important is the coupling of the physical and virtual space in real time. It's the actuation. That means it's actually a real-time coupling of both, that you have a real-time presence, and it's actually beyond just visual. A lot of metaverse applications we see now is actually visual. So if you think of physical, it's not just it involves more than visual. You have sensors, you have different kind of information. How do you actually incorporate all this into the virtual, which is we don't see a lot now. So this is something we want to look at, and 6G is a pathway to look at this. So to do this, actually, what we're actually doing is, from a Singapore perspective, as a university and national program, we start at a university level. So we build this program, which is in a center, which is AI and comms. We see actually metaverse is actually the connectivity and AI coupled together. So what we have is actually an open RAN. I know in Korea it has private spectrum. Why particular open RAN? Because it allows, especially from a university and also for researcher to actually implement and to deploy some of these services or new releases much easier. So this is an open RAN platform that we have. We have 2 bands, one is N78 and actually 1 millimeter wave that we actually will deploy later. So what is the use case? So the first case is we have a drone arena. So with that network, what is this drone arena? How is it connected to metaverse? So here what we can actually do is this XR drone racing, where you actually can remote control over the drone physically, but once you use this AR, VR, it's actually a virtual and a physical incorporation. From user point of view, you actually are seeing an avatar. The avatar are physical drones flying. So this is one interaction where you actually need to think about connectivity. You really need to think about MEC because there's a rendering, whatever you see. So you can have a very interesting type of experiment that we have. So this is something we are working on. Hope that we have some of this event next year. Of course, there's also interaction of robotic platforms together with the drone. Second is this things that we are trying to do. So we have seen a lot of very interesting projects about metaverse. From a view of this national program, we are really thinking of what is this connectivity require? Because if you think of a lot of current metaverse application, it's very visual. But actually what's interesting is that how does the sense coming in, right? How does your smell coming in? If you want to apply some of this application to teach your kid, seeing a zebra and if you go to a zoo, what's actually interesting is not just the visual, it's a smell, right? There are certain animals you go through, the smell is an additional information feature that you can recognize. So how do you actually incorporate this feature, sense, smell, into this metaverse? So for us, connectivity is just beyond visual. So how do you incorporate this with the different applications, edge sensings, and integrate your sense? So what we want is the sense that's integrate into this room that we can explore with the different vendor. We hope to have something by next year, so this is an ongoing process. Okay. So in short, what we're actually trying to do, this is a process we started 1 year. First, to promote Singapore, in a sense that we are not very active in 5G, but we started this program to say that actually we actually wanted to be an attractive hub where a lot of use cases come, attract companies, collaboration. There's a lot of open platform. We are very open to a lot of experiments, open platform. As you see, this is one open platform that we actually can look at Open RAN, and of course, eventually it will connect to Constellation and so on. Industrial adoption pathway, we welcome partners who are interested, not just in this platform, but also in other platforms through this program. Of course, the standardization is one way we want to get involved in the whole national ecosystem. In short, what we want to share is this communications connectivity is actually important for Singapore. We view this, whether it's metaverse, whether it's 6G, it's going to be a big backbone of our smart nation. Our smart nation and digital economy, and we feel that, well, this connectivity, why is actually important? Because the widespread of AI is going to use it, is going to be actually need this connectivity, and for us, we hope to have a presence in this and to lead this, especially in Asia Pacific or in Southeast Asia. So for this program to be successful, we hope to establish a consortium of partners, and we welcome any interesting partners that can talk to me and talk to us that welcome you. And that is my last slide, and I think within my time, so I can just elaborate. So this is not a metaverse, but hopefully, so this is a building that was donated by Jackie Chan, the Kung Fu. So this is a 400 years old building that was actually dismantled when he actually visited China a long time ago and was rebuilt here. It's actually a Ming Qing Dynasty building. It's a dance studio. So with this, I will end my presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. 고맙습니다. 싱가포르의 미래
Thank you very much for your presentation on the Future Communications Project and Program in Singapore. Please give him another big round of applause. So we have had very insightful presentations in the morning, and now we are going to move on to our panel discussion for the event. So we have prepared a table panel discussion, and with our moderators and panelists, we will be discussing realizing metaverse expectations and reality. The stage is being set up, so please bear with us for a moment. We are discussing metaverse and its impact on our economy and society at GSMA DXAF Summit today, and we have talked about the future vision of metaverse industry. We also heard about the various insights bridging between partners, and we've began with welcoming remarks, and we've heard from NIPA on the projects pursued by NIPA. We also had KT's metaverse strategy, and then we had the third presentation, which was on metaverse, thinking about metaverse from a customer-centric perspective from LGU+, and I believe it served as an opportunity to think about ways to create new values and partnership opportunities. And finally, we had our guest speaker, Tony Quek, who discussed the Future Communications Program of Singapore Pathway to Metaverse. So as mentioned, we will now move on to our table panel discussion, and we don't have a lot of time left, but through this discussion we hope to share more insights and perspectives. And after the stage is set up, let's invite our panelists for the discussion. We have GSMA Head of Asia Pacific, Julian Gorman, and GSMA Head of NEA DXAF, John David Kim, who will be the moderators of our panel discussion. We will be talking about realizing metaverse expectations and reality, and we will soon begin inviting our panelists onto the stage when the stage is set up. Before we begin the panel discussion, please bear with us for a moment in your seats. And as soon as we're done with setting up the stage, we will be inviting up our panelists. So please do stay with us for the panel discussion. We will be talking about realizing metaverse, expectations, and reality. And there were the advantages and disadvantages of or challenges of the metaverse industry that were discussed in our previous presentations. And so in our table discussion, we hope to take a more deep dive into the metaverse industry. So I think the stage is set up, and let's invite our two moderators for the panel discussion and invite our panelists up onto the stage. So you can see your name tags in front of you, so please take your seats.
네, 연사자분들과 그리고 또
So our panelists and our moderators are seated. We also have our discussants taking their seats.
네, 지금 많은 분들이 올라와 주셔서
We had a lot of people on stage, so please bear with us for a moment.
Wow, we have 12 people here. 네, 12분 지금
We have 12 panelists on the stage, and our two moderators will lead the session. The mic is for you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this panel discussion. Great, fantastic. I mean, we've actually heard, and thank you for your patience. We've actually heard a number of presentations from Korean operators, the Korean government, NIPA, on behalf of MSIT, and of course a representative from the Singapore University in relation to connectivity related to metaverse and so forth. And we've covered a number of topics, and I think we have a certain number of questions that we would really like to discuss about and get opinions on from our overseas and of course local participants. We have a number of questions, and first of the questions that I'd really like to ask is about the metaverse, and as I mentioned in my presentation, the hype, the buzz, and you know, whether metaverse services can be realistic, sustainable, and really practical. And of course, and as I mentioned before, it's going to be very much, you know, different types of segments, sectors, and so forth, and there will be appropriate services and so on. And we would like to actually hear some, you know, perspectives from a number of panel participants here. Johnny, do you have any comments to make?
I think I agree with you, Johnny. I mentioned yesterday how I think we're entering an era of digital nations where actually the fundamental principles of the way the world is structured are being challenged, and we're going to change from digitizing our physical world to actually being digital at our core. And some of the presentations we had this morning, I noticed Mr. Junwon Choi's comments about the metaverse being for millennials and Gen Z. So I'd like to pass this question to him about most of the people sitting on this stage are not millennial or Gen Z. Yet we're here talking as experts about the metaverse. How do we bridge the gap? How do we make those services real? How do we bring the metaverse to life when we are coming from a physical world expressing into a digital, but these new generations will be digital
from birth?
Okay, thank you for asking the question. In my opinion, it's really difficult to answer the question because I'm not Gen Z or Alpha generation. But what we found is that this generation is like just like Nike, just to do it, because there's some kind of metaverse or blockchains, NFTs. I just do it because why? I ask them because why? Because I feel fun. Because it's fun, and I can spend my time on exploring all the metaverse spaces, or I can earn the things in the blockchains. So that is very different ways that all the generations like me and here's. So we want to try to close the gap between this kind of services. So we added many tests. So as I mentioned in my presentation, we adopt the Agile process to develop the services. So we try to have many times, to ask our customers, especially the MZ generation and Alpha generation, and what they like and what they want. So we think it's time of probing this kind of the opportunities while asking them. That's why we do the close the differentiations between the generation.
Thank you. To Johnny, I mean, are we restricted by generations?
I certainly am. Okay. I'll pass on the same question. I'll ask the same question to Arpad Corelli. Okay. Arpad, would you like to just comment on this particular question? Let's cut the hype, please.
Yeah, no, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, and also thank you everyone for having me here. I don't see it as a hype, but I do see it as an infant stage, which I believe all of us tend to agree with. These are the same discussions and hypotheses people had 30, 20 years ago about the internet and Web 2 itself. And I like the LGU Plus presentation because you brought in the Web 3 aspect of everything, actually the technology aspect of everything, and not just the application of Web 3 with respect to metaverse. Web 3 for sure has already proven not to be on hype, and there's certain data points that supports that claim. One is, if you go back 2-3 years ago, the global deployment of capital into Web 3 startups, products, and the tech itself was about 5 billion global scale. 2022, that 5 billion is expecting to grow to a bit north of 37 billion. So that itself shows a huge proliferation of Web 3. Now, obviously, it's not just metaverse, it's NFT, it's smart contracts, and a bit more. With respect to metaverse, I do see that our clients that we work with, I need to ring fence that to Southeast Asia, which predominantly translates to Singapore as an advanced market, and then a huge portion of growth markets, emerging markets. Singapore, obviously, Tony covered that, so I'm not going to get into that. But in markets like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, predominantly Indonesia and Philippines, we do see a lot of focus on the metaverse, but also Web 3 from the MNOs, and a huge growth of the ecosystem. Now, the focus translates to a few, what LGU Plus was saying, killer services or killer application areas or killer use cases. One is actually on customer engagement. So how do you drive a better customer engagement by applying a Web3 blockchain ledger? The second is obviously on metaverse, but that's also constrained to socioeconomic classes A to B, because what I want to bring into the equation, and I kind of missed that out in all presentations, is the economy of metaverse. We need to consider that the next billion users are in growth markets, and we still haven't cracked the affordability, the price points. I do also see a lot of, and I think a lot of companies or MNOs are missing this out, and that's why I'm highly praising the Korea ecosystem. There's a huge portion of innovation in Korea that can be applied for metaverse application. Startups like DoBrain, Marvers are two really strong startups in the education sector that innovate for good. So they're bringing applications to the metaverse to support cognitive development. And obviously, that is highly applicable in growth markets. I mean, I can continue as well, but I have a tendency to talk a lot about passions I have, so I will pass it back to Johnny. I think I have addressed the question to a lot of extent, but I'm happy to speak to others after this as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Albert, for a very comprehensive explanation and your opinion. I'd like to now, Arpad is in the consulting industry, so we heard his perspective from the consultant's perspective. Okay. Now I'd like to actually ask one of the operators, and we have our colleague Neo from Taiwan Mobile, and Neo, we'd like to hear your perspective on whether you think this is a hype, whether it's realistic or sustainable and practical.
Thank you, Johnny. And I didn't expect such a practical question coming in the very beginning. And thanks for having me here, first of all. And come back to your question. Actually, I believe there's a definitely, that is the goal what we are working on, and why we want to lead most of people to go to so-called the metaverse or the future together with us. That is our role, and that is very important for this industry. And I really appreciate Julian's presentation yesterday. And I believe that is one of the responsibility from telcos, and that is the only thing, things we can do for this industry, because we oversee all different kind of industry and services, and that is one of the very key tasks for all of us right now. And that's just maybe one of the opinion from myself, or maybe idea, let's say in this way. And for example, like everybody knows, there's a few years ago until now the crypto and NFT trading is very popular among the old Generation Z, and that could be one of the starting points for this kind of practical thinking. So, for instance, of course, that crypto exchanges started from maybe the buy and sell behavior. However, I understand lots of artists in the world, they really want most of people and more people to see their artworks. So maybe what if there is a world or metaverse actually can pull those kind of artworks in and do the exhibition, something like we are really seeing or checking all those artworks in the place or in the world. That could be one of the idea, and make people can easily access this kind of, let's say, metaverse or Web3 related ideas. So the virtual reality perhaps will have to be based on the reality. So we always project those reality or those experience in our real life onto those metaverse, and then we try to get it better. So I believe we have to understand the demand and so-called this kind of practical thinking first, and I believe based on the current technology, we can break those so-called hive or those difficulties, and then we can pull more people in and get used to those services. That is my humble opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, Neo. I think great comments to add to there. I'm going to, while the microphone's down there near Claudio, I was going to hand over to Claudio. Claudio, looking from a multi-country regional point of view, we've heard the words about Gen Z, millennial, and the potential for take-up. When you look down from a regional perspective at multiple countries and you see the diversity of maturity in technology, how do you see that reflects back on the reality and the readiness of the metaverse?
I think I look around and I see that there is big investment done by these tech giants like Meta, Apple, and Microsoft, and all the different operators actually they're investing big in the metaverse. I think we're still divided about what is the definition really of the metaverse, but there is definitely a lot of opportunities I see here. that it's obvious that there is a growing number of companies, startups, and companies that are building solutions for the metaverse. The next step is to bring it at the regional level, which is going to be, I think, part of the building the ecosystem and just going international. I think that regardless of whether the metaverse actually succeeds, which probably it's a matter of when, I think that there's a lot of innovation that is happening around right now around the metaverse. So I think from a regional perspective, I see the key is making interoperable. It's also the element of gamification. And I look at the examples of IFLand and Sandbox as basically the example of these next generation metaverse initiatives. They are becoming regional, global, right? So you're going to have your own Koreaverse, Singaporeverse. So I think these are the way in which is slowly expanding to different markets. So again, I think it's the metaverse is nice to see what Korean is doing, very impressive. I think it's going to take a little bit longer to see it happen in other countries, but it will happen. One thing that looks promising is, at a personal level, is I see that it's making AR, VR, and all these applications more mainstream. And so we're definitely hoping to see more, maybe headsets becoming more affordable. So I think there's a lot of elements here that can happen at the regional level. So definitely looking forward to see opportunities at beyond the individual markets. Thank you, Julian.
Thanks, Claudio. Thanks, Claudio. Thank you very much for your comments, everyone, for that question. It looks like it's not a hype. Okay, we can build this thing step by step. But I think, you know, as Claudia mentioned, I mean, the Korean metaverse sector is pretty advanced. It's very, very progressive. And it's going to be important to really recognize what kind of a role the government played in doing that. Because in other countries around the world, for example, I remember 10, 15 years ago, you know, Europeans used to look at Korea and Japan and say, oh, that's government's overly, you know, managing the industries and so forth. And, you know, there's a bit of a truth to that. But at the same time, when everything's converged, when everything's becoming disaggregated, converged and so on, you know, the collaboration with the government and policymakers is that much more important as well. And so I want to actually ask a question. You know, how important is government support in promoting the metaverse? And I'll ask one of our founding member partners from Borna Global, John Cap Kim, who actually does work closely with the government in promoting the startup sector. John Cap, your wisdom, please.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting us. I'm hearing very excitingly many speakers' presentation, and it's very good to achieve for the short-term period. We're just starting 1 or 2 years less than, and we achieved a lot. But as a government perspective, I think that this is first year stepstone to promoting metaverse ecosystem inside of the Korea. But I have several questions on that. One is that matter of the regional and global matter in the metaverse? By definition of the metaverse, is something wrong, I think. And then, so it should be like some universal platform style, include all humans' life. That's I think the metaverse, the long-term vision. That's why many people talk about the IoT, robotics, and the MEC, so many, the different factor of the, collaboration area. That means it applied all our life with the metaverse. And many people talk about the, cyber world connect the real world something. But that's not just the connection matter, I think. It's a matter of the how we accommodate our physical life into with the the particular life, or sort of thing, virtual life, sort of thing. So I said this is a time and space saving effect through the metaverse. then we can apply hospital, we can apply, they present like a military services, we can apply school, we can apply everything through, it should be through the metaverse. And then it totally comply with the data-driven society, AI-driven society, something like that. This is a perfect platform, I think, to make the digital era all nationwide, all global society. In terms of that, the government support, starting to support here and there, but still, somebody talked already, collaboration. This is not a single entity's activity. Ministry of Science and ICT providing lots of initiate, sample project, but still, we heard about today, MNO especially, they are waiting too much. They're waiting too much. I propose, by the government initiative, they should follow more fastly. I don't think we cannot wait demand from the demand side, or this is not a matter of only the young generation's problem. Even though, who knows, silver generation can initiate metaverse first, I don't know. Yeah, because it should be connected to our real life, actuating something. So in terms of that, I think the government support is very essential to initiate something, but the industrial ecosystem player, they should understand more metaverse, the meaning, and they will more aggressively, the participant this initiative. Then I think the metaverse platform era is much more, the brilliant and beautiful, our life-saving role, something. Does that make sense?
Right, thanks, John Cap. Thanks for your wisdom. John Cap, I'd like to actually skip over. We've heard about the Korean perspective of government support. I'd like to ask Tony Kwek about his opinion about the importance of government support, because I see Singapore and I see a lot of similarities there. Yeah? Over to you.
Thank you, John. I do agree that the new initiative has to drive from the government. So creating the comms program to look at different sectors. The whole goal is actually to build a platform to bring the eco-partners together. So our idea is that it's the whole idea of electric vehicle. So if you have this platform, inviting the different ecosystem startup to create the right technologies to integrate. So as we evolve, then we can create something which is more feasible. So I do agree that's our perspective. It's very new. We are only beginning to look at that from different sectors. From Future Comms is one sector. IMDA also looking at that. So we eventually look forward to partnering with Korean and other like-minded agencies to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. I suppose we can't finish this question without going to Mr. Jae-woo Shin, proud supporter and a partner for this event and host. From an MSIT point of view, I mean, the importance of your support and participation for the metaverse and the risk of governments not participating in the ecosystem, perhaps your thoughts?
예. 먼저 제 소개를 드리면
So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm from the Ministry of Science and ICT, and I'm a director there. And I've been working on metaverse policy. And in terms of policy making for metaverse, of course, the role of government is important since the past, and I believe that it will continue to play an important role in the future as well. And especially for metaverse, it's an initial stage and it has great potential, and we see this is a new industry with a great potential. And if the government can play the role of starting off or kicking off the base of metaverse, I think it will have a great benefit for the industry. But unlike the past, it is not the government leading the growth of the industry. I think that is not fit for the current era, and it won't be as effective. The government is more playing a role of support. So the private sector play the leaders of innovation. They are leading the growth. Say if the government can play the role of reducing the risk for the companies, and also if the government can look into whether regulations is like holding back the companies. If government identifies it, the government will remove that barrier. So I think that's the role that should be played by the government. With such understanding, we have established a new industry strategy for Metaverse early this year, and in this September, we have established a digital strategy for Korea. So the policies that we are establishing is to help companies engage in innovative ideas, proactive ideas to tackle this metaverse industry. It is to create demand. We will expand R&D funds and also help nurture developers or creators who are the important talents for the industry, and providing customized trainings for these talents. And regionally, we are setting up hubs in the regional areas. So companies are developing metaverse service, and we are offering this demonstration test beds so they can test it there. And also, in order to create a healthy metaverse environment, there are some ethical principles that people who are participating in the metaverse should consider, and we are working on developing these ethical principles. So these are just some of the examples that the government is playing its role. It's not absolute, and I don't think this is perfect. However, the government's effort and the private sector's innovative works, challenges, when they come together, it will be able to create synergy, and it will lead the growth of metaverse industry as a whole. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director Shin, for your comprehensive explanation. I totally agree, with what you've said. Based on my interaction with other, for example, governments and other countries, having worked with GSMA. Look, I know we'll be fighting for time, so if the panelists can, keep your answers short, but to the point, I'd really appreciate that. I'd like to move on to the next question, and this is something that's very, very important for ecosystem players that are working with MNOs, and MNOs working with ecosystem players. And there are expectations on both sides. What MNOs want from ecosystem players, and what ecosystem players want from the kind of support they want from MNOs. And so what I would like to actually ask is, I'd like to ask Jihad, okay? I'd like your views on what kind of, for example, support or input you expect or want to see from ecosystem players wanting to work with you. Yeah.
Thanks, John. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, to be honest, we are not as much as Korea when it comes to how advanced we are on the metaverse. We're still trying to understand where should we play as a telco, and what are the building blocks that we need to invest in, other than the connectivity, of course. But there are multiple things that we want to get into, like should we invest into building a Web 3.0 basics and take it from there and get into the metaverse. The thing is, we're looking at the ecosystem. When it comes to infrastructure, for example, we need proper cloud computing when it comes to RTX and GPUs, distributed storage. Fortunately, STC has invested in a JV with Alibaba, so this is something we could rely on ourselves and deliver to the country. However, to help the economy grow, we also need to onboard partners and other people in the ecosystem. So this is what we are trying to do now with the government, is to look at where can we onboard others. But this requires a lot of education, a lot of training, and the strategy has to be clear from the government. Like the gentleman said right here, the government has to help us drive this demand in the country by putting on the governance and the standardization, so people could understand how can we work together. We're still learning, and I think we have learned a lot from our meetings with the telcos here, especially SK Telecom. I'm really thankful and grateful for the information that you have guys shared with us. I think it's too early for us to give, at least from our perspective, what are the expected ecosystem.
Thanks for that, Jed. I think that's a good reflection on, there is a diversity across the world in the maturity of the metaverse ecosystem, especially on the mobile operator side. So maybe if I then refer to Mr. Jin-Wook Jung, CEO of Sears Lab, because I know you're busy working in this most advanced market, or considered most advanced market for metaverse. So you've heard from the operators today, yesterday. What's your advice and what's your experience on working with operators in the metaverse?
Okay, thanks for asking me. I'm not sure if we are most advanced.
And we want honest transparency.
Yeah. We are actually building the Metaverse City platform backed by government. Theoretically, we're replicate all our activities in real world to virtual world and influencing each other vice versa. So that's our big the goal. But current stage is actually very infant. So the focus for our developing technology, for everyone, every vertical business sector to try their existing business model in metaverse. In order to do that, we need to have some tools to minimize the cost of trying, experiment, and challenging its various kinds of business model and feature and content in the metaverse worlds. So that's what the CS Lab is focusing on, building some useful tools for every business and every people to easily create their virtual space and custom their avatar, and furthermore the custom some specific feature for our vertical business. So that's what we are doing. So we think it takes time for people to find some useful value in metaverse. So we are struggling to survive till finding the real value in future. So that's what CS Lab is doing right now. Yeah. Thank you.
What about, do you seek any support from MNOs? What do you think they can do for you?
MNO is currently looks like competing with us. But it's okay. The metaverse is really huge, right? So, I really welcome, somebody to invest on experiment something in here. So we need to find the answer, all together, what, metaverse would, influence, our real world, and how we create, virtual world, more effectively. So we think, MNO is, our partner to struggle together.
Yes, totally agree. MNOs wake up, okay? Great, thanks for that. And I'd actually like to move on to Three Eyes, Mr. Choi Seok-kun, because I know that you're involved in providing the propositions to enable the metaverse, but would really like to hear, for example, what you would like from MNOs to really, drive your business and partnership with them.
Yes. Thank you for the question and the opportunity. We make digital twin, photo-based digital twin for enterprises, and we like to ask the MNOs to continue to drive the enterprises into the cloud-based environment. This metaverse or digital twin, in order for it to thrive, the size of the data and the ability to log many stakeholders simultaneously, it has to be, cloud-based environment is a must. But for security and privacy issues, the enterprises, not depending on size, they are very reluctant to migrate to the cloud-based environment at this time. So from their support and raising the security issue, we would like to ask them to continue to persuade the enterprises moving into the cloud-based environment. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I think that's gives a nice wake up. Johnny referred to a wake up, but certainly motivation for operators, not only here, but across the region present here to take back home. So with that, I'm actually going to skip forward to ask Velshko to give us some comments. Velshko, you sit often between enterprise and the digital world, helping them become digital. What do you see is maybe the constraints on innovation in that space, and where do you see the early signs for metaverse opportunities arising from that space?
Thank you so much. I would say this is the age of partnerships, right? And seeing big brands such as Microsoft partnering with Meta, involving Microsoft 365 to enable collaboration for all parties in the universe. We are seeing Epic Games and Lego partnering to enable basically kids to play in Metaverse, to concerts such as Coachella, partnering with Absolute to enable anyone to attend the concert, right? So in that terms, I think MNOs need to engage in partnerships in order to amplify their brands. Traditionally, they're kind of slow movers, but what we've seen is that once they engage in partnerships, then it enables them, not to do everything by themselves, but actually to have a partner that's already been there, done that, that has platforms that can definitely create the network of networks effect, which is something that is bringing scale, right? And I heard that many participants are talking about the competition. I would say collaboration over competition, just because that is benefiting everyone the most, and that is something that amplifies all of the efforts. And if you talk about it, for example, telcos, right, as a traditional MNC, they sit on the forefront of users, right, data. And the most important thing, they're enabling the metaverse through the connectivity. So then, why not partnering and basically giving access to all of these users, to interesting solutions that we've seen today on the telco booths. I was really surprised what Korean telcos are doing. And I think that can be a very good example for other telcos to create these solutions, create these partnerships, and be more of a metaverse enabler to the users rather than a provider of connectivity. I think that's something that it's a psychological twist that telcos needs to play. I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Jogo. Well, now I'm going to give it to Jokhui, because Jokhui, you have a number of mobile operators as your partners, as your customers. You've got a broad makeup of mobile operators, and you serve the enterprise market. How does this all come together in such so many stakeholders coming from different angles in this metaverse universe?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, Bridge Alliance has 34 member operators cutting across Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And it's quite interesting to look at the different strategy of these MNOs in different parts of the world. And I would say different strategy probably works for different segments. So for example, one success case that we've seen is in Philippines, where Globe is very focused in transforming themselves from a telco to a techco. And that works very well, that model, in terms of how they spin off, in terms of working with startups. So they have a 917 venture that invests into startups. And MNOs can also learn a bit more in terms of getting out of the way, right? So we don't know everything, and we should learn and admit that we don't know what we don't know. So the startups did very well in some of these cases. For example, in Philippine case of GCash, where the GCash customer base is now bigger than the telco base. So that's really a very good learning that across our bridge operators, we're learning from each other. And in the metaverse world, we have seen the investment of SKT going into a full stack, right? Building up IFLAN, which is very impressive. And they are now working with some of our other member operators to bring it to the rest of the world. Bridge Alliance sees the role of making things interoperable. So that's where we have also been working very closely with GSMA and other telcos in the world to build a federated layer to ensure that in future when the application providers need edge compute resource and other connectivities, they can seamlessly access to different market telcos core assets like MEC. So that's a very important element if we want to make sure that the digitalization and metaverse of the world really works across the globe. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gok Chi. Yes, we do work very closely with Bridge Alliance, GSMA, making the impossible happen. Okay, so great. Now, we've got some time left, and I'd like to actually jump back to our founding partner for innovation, John Cap, okay, for Borna Global. John Cap, this is something that I'd like to just ask you off the cuff, and it's about the real importance of the startup sector and the innovation sector, okay, in really putting the icing on the cake and making sure that the digital ecosystem starts flowering. So if you could just share your insight on that, please. Thank you.
Your expression is good, flowering. But you don't take care like the flower. Because they are not flower, they are just, initiator. And I think that's the very important ecosystem player who can show with the high risk. So I think everybody should respect the startup in terms of that. But by the way, many MNO and the people talk about, they are learn from the startup and that they're getting more understanding startup. But I need something more on that to promoting the startup, the more aggressive, the venturous, the risk taking, is that there is not that much sufficient infrastructure to be a digital something. So it can be a government support or it can be a more MNO's involvement. Then startup can be shown like a more different flower, different color. But now everybody see the metaverse like visual only or entertainment area, avatar. But they are little tapping the office space, a little tapping the meeting. But they already confess what's the difference from the 2D and 3D, offline and online. That's why they hesitate to moving forward. But if we put the more infrastructure like a sensor, IoT, and delivery, mobility with the connected metaverse, I think the brilliant startup can develop more different type of the business model. And then all our ecosystem player can enjoy on that. So that's why I asking the big people like a government and the MNO, you should put more resource and take care and then invest more infrastructure area. Then I think the metaverse will be a totally different shape for the next year. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, John Cap. And you stopped right on the dot with the timing there. Really, we've ran out of time, but I really do GSMA DXAF, and of course all the participants here. Thank you very much for your comments, and I hope the audience also found this discussion valuable. Just before we finish off, GSMA DXAF is actually having the Digital Transformation Leaders CXO Summit in Tokyo, Japan at the end of November. So if you're interested in participating in that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us directly. Once again, thank you very much for participation, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your wonderful talk. Thank you. 네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much. This concludes our panel discussion. Please give them another big round of applause. So there will be another event in November in Japan, so please, we ask for your interest and participation. So this brings us to the end of the second day of GSMA DXAF Summit of the Korea Metaverse Festival and K Metaverse Expo 2022. So thank you for joining us for this summit early in the morning, and I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to all of the viewers online. Now it's lunchtime, so please have a great lunch, and we also have afternoon sessions, so please join us back in the afternoon. This brings us to the end of GSMA DXAF Summit. Thank you very much.